I just want to explain to you what happened. It was February 2018 during the Pyeongchang Olympics that we actually went to Korea. It was kind of a year process, and it was actually pretty abrupt, but we decided to also visit our birth family. That experience went actually pretty well. So this is the hotel that we stayed at. They had two giant animals that stood there. The hotel was pretty nice. It was a little small, but other than that, we had a really enjoyable time there. And this is me in front of the Korean flag outside the hotel. This is us during a market in Korea. There's several of these in Seoul that they always go outside. It was pretty cold out, but it wasn't terrible. I would say it was in the 30s. And this is just some food that they had out, or some vegetables and other types of products that they had out for people to buy. This is just a cityscape of Seoul. And this is just another cityscape. They also had exercise equipment outside under a bridge, and it was pretty interesting. They don't have that here, but during their trails, we were able to get some exercise. This is the two main icons of the Olympics of 2019 Pyeongchang. This is just an example of the various structures that were throughout Seoul. They kept some of the traditions alive, and they are pretty beautiful. This is an example of how big they were. We're in front of the structure in Seoul. So comfort women were really something that was not really looked upon in Korea. They're actually enslaved by the Japanese colony, since they were actually colonized by Japan for a number of years. These women were put up for prostitution, and the reason why it's so prevalent right now is because they weren't recognized, and right now the very few of them are actually still living. This is just an example when we're back in Jeonju. So Jeonju is south of Korea. We took the train station. Our family lives in Jeonju, but I think our half-sister, one of them, the middle sister, lived in with my parents. This is just an example of them during the Lunar New Year's. Lunar New Year's is really popular in East Asia, and it was during the holidays that we were able to spend time with the family. This is me playing piano. As you can tell, I play piano, and I've been doing it a number of years. This is a family photo of my parents and us when we're in the hotel in Jeonju. So these two people were really important. We actually met the Moon Che in South Korea, and she was able to translate for us. She also brought along another friend who was actually really good in English, and they were able to translate the information for us. This is the first person we met. This is our uncle. This was our mom's brother. This is us meeting our family. As you can tell, the stepdad's in the back. You can't see our mom, but the mom is just in the black right there, and our half-sister and our cousin. This is us during the conference room as we get together. Here's just us showing an example of how we grew up, and there's many family photos that we showed. This is us together. As you can tell, we gave her a quilt for a gift. It has something to do with East Asian culture. That's our half-sister, Cheon Ho Park, and my family. So we also went to Pyeongchang, back to Seoul. It was really, really cold there, but they had amazing ice structures, or snow structures that were in Seoul. It was really, really cold there. I would say it was like in above zero, so the wind was really brisk, and I'm pretty sure the wind chill was below zero, so we had to really bundle up there. This is just an example to show that we went to the Olympics, and this is the icon that many people know. So this is outside Pyeongchang of 2018 Olympics. This is just a beautiful landscape of what the mountains look like in Korea. I think Korea is like maybe 7% mountains, so there's a lot of mountains there. This is just some of the flags that I stood under. As you can tell, they're pretty tall, and I'm there in the center. You can just move on to the next slide. So this is just an example of the little icons that were featured in a gift shop that we went to. This is just another ice igloo that my sister and me went into. This is just an example of some of the venues that they had there. It was just an interesting structure that you could take a picture with. And they also had a light show, various technology that was inside one of the buildings. This is just an example of some of the structures that were there. There are several of them throughout that featured the Pyeongchang Olympics. This is just balloons that were held as we left the building. And this is an example, another example of the icons that were featured in Pyeongchang. So as we went back to Seoul, we decided to do a South Korean tour and a historical temple. This is just the landscape that we went up to on a huge hill that we actually saw and took a picture of. This is another cityscape, as you can tell. I think this is actually from our room, but it looks pretty nice. Korea is very, very populated, so you can see there's a lot of buildings there. And this is just another example of the structures that used to be during the dynasty of Korea. This is another example. As you can tell, the people are pretty small compared to this giant structures. This is just an example of where they're at. They're actually, you can tell, they're preserved in the middle of the city. This is just another cityscape. We went to a sculpture garden with several flowers and plants. As you can tell, there's many plants and flowers that they preserve. This is just an example of what some of the Olympic icons were found on top of the landscape. So, this is a great experience. We ended up seeing gold medalists compete in the Pyeongchang Olympics. His name was Shaun White. We actually saw him in person and go on the snowboarding experience. This is us in front of it as they get prepared to start the event. As you can see, the crowd gathers, and there's quite a few people that went to see the venue. And you can see them, as you can see, there's several feet in the air, and it's really dangerous because there's actually one incident where there was an injury, but he ended up coming out okay. This is up in front of another structure in front of Korea, Seoul. We went on a Seoul bus tour, and this is another picture of Colin and me in front of the landscape. As you can see, this is the bus that Colin and I took to see the cityscape. This is another large structure that they had in the middle of Korea. There's several of these. This is just one of the unique buildings that they held. As you can tell, it's a pretty unique structure. They also had a really famous, the famous chatting that people do in Korea is Talk, and have several icons that brand their business. And this is just an example of their little gift shop. This is us meeting family back in Jeonju. As you can tell, that's our middle sister, Hong Soon, on the left in gray. And the one in the vest is our youngest sister, and this is her 3 nephews. This is us with Muma. She's our mom. She's 7 years old. She's a little frail, small, but young, bright woman. This is us with family. On the left is Pyeongchang Park, middle Pyeongchang. To the right is our oldest sister, Cheon Ho Park, and our mom in the center. Our family in general is 10, 15 years older than us. This is actually where we were born. As you can tell, it's not a really functional type of housing, but it is where we were born, and things have sort of decayed, but I'm just surprised that they were able to keep things there and haven't transferred that to businesses or shops or even large buildings. This is Unshil and our uncle talking about where we were born. This is just a family picture of all of us. This is where our mom stayed at. This is where we were born. It was away from the home that they actually lived at, but this is her grandfather or father's place. This is just me and Kyle in front of our grandpa's grave. What they did was they buried them and made a hill out of it. This is us with our younger sister in front of a park reserve. This is an example of the beautiful scenery in Korea. This is another example lit up of the structures that are found in South Korea. Line is another big popular chat line, and they feature these icons in their brand name. Pikachu sushi is also really popular, and that's a Japanese culture that influenced Korean. This is just some examples of the food that they serve. I believe it's plastic, but it's just an example of all the various types of food that was found in Korea. This is an example of Lottie Tower. Lottie is really popular in Korea and is branded really exponentially in Korea. The final place is that we actually went to cooking class. We made beef bulgogi, and this is a family picture with various food culture academy students. This is us eating the food in the kitchen area. This is just an example of the palaces that were found throughout Korea. This is another example of the palace. This is Kyle standing in front of the palace. This is just more examples of the large palaces that are found throughout Seoul. This is just another picture.
That's the video.
That's the video. So I just want to explain, Korea was an awesome experience. I think if anyone, even other than adoptees, is a great place to visit. My one thing is that their income levels are similar. I wouldn't say they're similar to what are in America, but the currency is that you probably get $1 for $1 there, so things can be kind of expensive. So you got to prepare yourself when it comes to the stuff that you buy and how much you can bring on the plane. I think the most important thing when it comes to family trips is that you gotta know yourself, and my biggest regret is that Korea is not really good when it comes to older folks and people with disabilities, is that it's really hard to get around. You have to be able to walk, and there's not really wheelchair accessible places to visit in South Korea. So, as I said, Korea is a really amazing experience. This is just a recapture of all the pictures that we did in Korea. We visited our family in Seoul, we visited our half-sisters. So the one thing is that Colin and I wrote a letter 10 years ago, and we did that with Children's Home Society. Surprisingly, in 6 months, our family wrote back our oldest sister, and we were able to communicate through there. But it wasn't until 10 years later that we actually decided to visit them. We weren't sure on how they would react when it came to our visitation, but things went pretty well. I think the thing that most people have to realize is that many adoptees do not know their parents. Many adoptees had forged documents when it came to their history, name, birthplace, birth date. So Colin and I are one of the few lucky ones that actually was able to finally meet our birth family. So that was an amazing experience. I think the one thing that you have to realize when it comes to Korea is that I said they're not wheelchair accessible. So my dad was able to bring his scooter, but at the same time we had to find and wait for a bigger taxi to be able to store the equipment and take in places. I think that's it for now. Thank you. Yeah, that was my first time visitation. We probably will go back, but maybe sometime in the future we have plans to visit our family again. No, we don't. But we're learning, that's what Kimchi Club's about, so we're learning the language, culture, and many things like that.